Welcome, friends, to the seventh episode of Coach by Triple Dart. I'm Glenn Bona, your host and a growth manager here at Triple Dart. And like all of you, I'm pretty excited about the insights and the learnings we're about to gain from today's guest. Before we dive in, let me give you a quick introduction for those joining us for the first time about the force behind this series. So Triple Dart is a growth marketing agency focused on both paid and organic channels, primarily serving B2B SaaS companies. Established in 2021, our agency has quickly grown to over 40 or 70 marketing experts with offices in India, Singapore, and the United States. And we've had the honor of collaborating with some remarkable companies and brands, including industry leaders like Freshworks, ClickUp, Sentinel One, and Plivo, just to name a few. And if you're curious about how we can help you scale your business, don't hesitate to get in contact with me or apply directly through our website today at tripledart.com. Moving on, I'm excited to introduce the Coach by Triple Dart series launched earlier this year. We've already hosted 6 incredible guests, and now the journey continues, the climb continues. This series offers everyone the opportunity to engage with and learn directly from seasoned marketing leaders and growth experts in the B2B SaaS arena. Our aim is to equip you with actionable insights and knowledge that you can apply immediately after each session. And today, we're joined by AJ Wilcox, a renowned LinkedIn ads expert, host of the LinkedIn Ads Show, and founder of the B2 Linked agency. Since founding his agency in 2014, AJ has become a pivotal figure in LinkedIn advertising, contributing as a course author and instructor for LinkedIn Learning's course on advertising on LinkedIn. AJ's extensive experience in LinkedIn paid advertising is sure to enrich today's discussion with valuable lessons, especially those working in enterprise marketing. So I hope you have your notebook and pens out to capture all of this wisdom. Without further ado, AJ, welcome to Coach by Triple Dart.
Awesome, Glenn. Thank you so much for the kind intro.
No worries.
I'll go ahead and share my screen. And Glenn, if you can just let me know if you see it or when you do.
Yep, you're all good.
Okay, cool. All right. We are talking today specifically about enterprise uses of LinkedIn ads. And this is awesome. Like, enterprise is by far the most fun I think that we can have with LinkedIn ads. More resources, more to work with, more to test. It's awesome. Glenn already gave me a really good kind of intro. I really fell in love with B2B advertising about 14 years ago. And so just about 10 years ago, almost 10, I started B2 Linked, and we're an ad agency that is 100% dedicated to LinkedIn ads. And it's awesome. I live in the state of Utah in the US, and I'm a newlywed. I just got remarried about 2 years ago, and we have 5 kids. So that's enough about me personally. All right. So when you start thinking about the different challenges that we have with different channels and where LinkedIn can play a part, I think Google is the first platform that we think of. And Google Ads is fantastic because people are searching for the keywords that you specifically want to show up for. They're the ones that describe your service and your business. But the challenge that we have is that anyone can do a Google search, and it's really hard to tell who the person is by the keyword that they're searching. And so sometimes you can get leads that are of very low quality because it could be the CEO or it could be the janitor or anyone in between. Then we have like Meta. Meta, I think, is the next tier 1 platform that people try to use. But Meta doesn't understand who you are professionally. And so we have a client right now that's advertising on both Meta and LinkedIn. On Meta, the costs are about 1/5 as much as they are on LinkedIn. So sure seems like they're getting cheap leads, cheap people joining onto their webinar. But when the leads actually go to the sales team, we found out that the sales team is throwing out 90% of the leads for Meta because they're not a good fit. They're not the right kind of person that they want to reach. They're not in their ICP. Whereas LinkedIn, it has kind of the pros of all of these channels. It certainly has its cons as well, but with LinkedIn, we can be so ultra specific about who it is who's actually seeing our ads, so that we can guide and make sure that they are the exact right people that our sales team wants to talk to. And we're showing ads not just to people who are searching for what it is we do, because we know at any given time, only like 2 to 5% of our audience will be in market. With LinkedIn, we can show ads to people and remind them who we are, so that when they have a project in mind, or if they're ready right now, then they think to come to us. It's a great way of reaching more of our audience. LinkedIn by far has the very best business targeting, and it's at near perfect scale. Most people who are white collar professionals have a LinkedIn account, and those who don't, they're growing at a very fast rate. We also know that we tend to keep our data up to date on LinkedIn, because it is the owner of it's like the repository of all of our professional data. And so I don't know about you, but for me, if I got a promotion or I started a new position, I would tell my wife first, and then I would go and update my LinkedIn profile. And what that means for us as advertisers is we end up with really accurate targeting, where we're not going to be showing ads to someone based off of the job that they had 6 months ago. We're showing it to them based off of what job they have right now. Also, when you're on LinkedIn, you're in the business and corporate mindset. You're thinking about your job, you're thinking about your career, and it puts you in the right mentality to accept and be looking for anything work related, which is what our ads usually are. And then finally, when we compare across all the different channels, all the different ad channels, like between Google and Meta and LinkedIn and organic, LinkedIn always wins for closing the largest deal sizes. It's a measure of the quality. Interestingly enough, if your goal is to close deals the fastest, to build pipeline and graduate that pipeline into closed deals, Google Ads always wins that. But LinkedIn wins in closing the largest deals, making sure we're getting the right companies on board. But LinkedIn ads are expensive, as I'm sure most of you know. The prices are really high compared to most other channels. So we find who's a good fit for it. It's going to be those who are, when you close a deal with them, it's worth a lot of money to you. We find, like, if you're trying to generate leads that when they close, they're going to be worth $10,000 or more, then it's worth paying LinkedIn prices in North America for. It also works really well for white collar recruiting. So if you're trying to bring on a new marketing manager or a new sales lead, something like that, we can show ads to people who already have that title and are in our area, have the right skill set and experience, and show ads that say, hey, are you interested in applying for our position? And you end up getting really, really good applicants. We also find in higher education, I have a spelling error on recruiting, but if you're recruiting someone for like an MBA program or something else, higher education, LinkedIn works really well for that. And there are some great uses in B2C as well. They're not quite as prominent as B2B, but there are B2C folks like in luxury or automotive, finance, travel, who do use LinkedIn and they are very successful. But I would say most of the time, like probably 90% or more of advertisers on LinkedIn that are having success are B2B. Why is LinkedIn the perfect fit for enterprise? Well, first off, the platform costs are higher, and because of that, we need more data that costs more to generate to make sure that things are working. Enterprises tend to have the budgets to be able to afford that. Enterprises also have oftentimes long sales cycles that require a lot of good content to help support those efforts and keep your prospects seeing things that they're excited about. And so these are like, yeah, when you have a long sales cycle, it's helpful to be an enterprise with a long-term focus. And alignment, enterprises just have the right resources to be able to create new content, to be able to test new things, whereas non-enterprises generally don't have the budget and the appetite for it and the long-term thinking. Anytime I think about advertising on any social platform, I keep in mind this acronym, bringing my ammo to social ads. These are the 3 pillars that every single social ad requires, And so I like to think about these in terms of LinkedIn. So number one, your A is your audience. This is who it is we're targeting. This is why we come and pay a premium to advertise on LinkedIn, to get in front of exactly the right people. Your M is your message. This is what you are showing your prospect. It's the text that you choose, your copy. Could be your visuals, like your images or video. It can be the ad format that you choose. All of those are part of your message. And then finally, O is, I think, by far the most important part. That is your offer. It's what you are offering your prospects in exchange for their attention. Your offer can be anything. It can be read this free blog post, or it could be get out your credit card and buy something now, or anything in between. So think about that in terms of your ammo. What's your audience that you're going after, the message that you're going to convey to them, and what you're offering them for their attention. I want to walk through the types of ad formats that are working really well, and the ones that, if you're not already using these, you might consider. The first is single image ads. These are a newsfeed ad. These came out in 2013. I recommend these to about 95% of advertisers because they're so simple to create. All it requires is 160 characters of text at the top, 70 characters at the bottom, and then an image that you could create very quickly in Photoshop or Canva. If you have these, you can expect somewhere around a 0.45% click-through rate. So if you're performing much higher than that, that's fantastic. I'll also point out that this 0.45%, this is landing page click-through rate. So if you're using an objective or something that calls something else other than clicking to your landing page a click, you'll probably end up seeing much higher click-through rates, but people clicking to the link that you've presented, usually about 0.45%. In North America, it's really competitive. We pay on average $10 to $16 per click, click to landing page. And in other areas of the world and in other languages that aren't nearly as competitive as English in the US, you'll pay considerably less. But this is what we see in North America. I love single image ads because there's a really good middle ground. It's really difficult to, I'll say it's very easy to express whatever your offer is in the constraints that you have in a single image ad. Then we have thought leader ads. Thought leader ads are new as of last year. This is all the other ads that we run on LinkedIn have always been promoting your company's posts. And what we see is if you yourself are going through your newsfeed and you see a post from a company you've never heard of, you are so much more likely to just keep scrolling. But if you see something from a person, even if you don't know that person, you might be a little bit more curious to see what that person is sharing. And so with these thought leader ads that are new, we can promote an individual's post, a person's post as a LinkedIn ad with the same awesome targeting that LinkedIn has. And these are incredible. We're seeing click-through rates in the 3 to 12% range. I have one yesterday for a client that had 14%. They're amazing. And because the click-through rates are so high, we're seeing costs per click being in the like $1 to $3 range. So huge discounts by using these. I say 80% recommended just because I find that it's about 80% of companies who have an internal thought leader or an executive who is willing and able to share on you have to share something organically from your individual on LinkedIn first, and then you can promote that. Some companies just don't have access to executives who to suggest that they could make these, or the executives are too busy and don't have time. Then we have video ads. Video ads about 2 years ago, if you would have asked me, I would have said, don't bother. Video ads on LinkedIn don't work. But in just the last couple years, they have worked really well. I've absolutely loved them. I recommend them to about 80% of advertisers, again, because not every company is willing to create video. They're not, it may just not be in their process or in their budget. But I'll tell you, it doesn't have to be a big budget to create good video ads. You can expect in North America to pay between about 10 to 35 cents per person who watches at least 2 seconds. That's how you bid. But be aware, when you create these video ads, people will not be listening to it with the sound on. It's something like 80% of people will watch the video without clicking to toggle the audio. So it's really important to have subtitles, especially animated subtitles on your video, so people can follow along. And the type of video, it doesn't always have to be something very well produced. It can just be your internal thought leader talking to their phone. They already own a phone. You can upgrade audio, upgrade video, and lighting if you want, but it doesn't have to be super high production. This could be a 30-second video that you take with your phone, and then you edit with a $12 a month video editing app if you don't already have one. Then we have document ads. I recommend these 20% of the time, but for those 20% who are doing a really good job of creating documents that show up well on mobile, they're doing amazing. We're finding click-through rates and engagement rates with these as high as like 8 to 12%. And all it takes is having a document that is, think of it like a presentation more than like an ebook. Even if you're sharing an ebook or a guide or something that's really text heavy, the version you want to create as a document ad, think of it more like infographics. Each slide has one big point, one big graphic that makes it easy for people to slide through and engage with. If you do this right, these are one of the highest performing ad formats. Then text ads. I have this as 15% recommended, but I actually really love text ads. They only show up in the right rail, which is only available on desktop. They have really, really low click-through rates. 0.025% click-through rates. Oh, this says 0.25. It's actually 0.025%. What that means is you'll get 2.5 clicks out of every 10,000 times you show these ads. So the question becomes, AJ, you said you like these, but no one ever clicks on them. That's actually why I like them. When they are the lowest cost ad format on LinkedIn, you can bid all the way down to $2 per click, and they show 10,000 times before 2.5 people end up clicking them. That's a lot of times of free exposure, people seeing your logo repeatedly and being able to stay top of mind, costing you next to nothing. So they're a great, on their own, I wouldn't suggest running them most of the time, but as a companion to all the other ads you're running, I love text ads for that. We have conversation ads. These are, it comes into your messaging box, your LinkedIn in-mail box. So it's more personal than all the other ad formats. And you send a message and you can give people different buttons, different calls to action. And based off of what they click, you can then take them a different direction and show them something else. The costs on these are very high compared to the other ad formats. On average, if you're measuring to the actual someone clicking on something that you care about, it's like $23 to $58 cost per click. And it's because on these, you can only pay per send. You'll pay something like 35 to 85 cents just to send it to someone with no guarantee that they'll open it or click on it. They're kind of cumbersome to build, but I will say this. If the average is a $23 to $58 cost per click, that's to cold traffic. If you're showing this to warm traffic who are much more likely to open it and click on it, and they already know, like, and trust you, these costs can come way down and they become a really good, solid ad format. I only recommend them about 10% of the time, and usually only for warm audiences. All right, then we have lead gen form ads. The problem that LinkedIn had for a long time is that people would advertise on LinkedIn, send them to a landing page with a form, and they would come back and say, oh, LinkedIn traffic doesn't convert. It's, they're not filling out the forms on our site. The traffic must be bad. LinkedIn followed the lead for Meta, and they created a lead ad. This is when you interact with the ad itself, a drawer will slide down with an embedded form. I call these native forms. And what's so cool about these is everything that LinkedIn knows about you already, they pre-fill into these form fields. And so it makes it really easy. If you're on a mobile device and you don't want to type and fill out 5 different fields, all you have to do is hit that submit button. It's pretty awesome. Or maybe you just have to type your work email or something. Makes for really high conversion rates. Plus, the form loads immediately. And I found one of the biggest offenders for why landing page forms don't convert. It's because the page takes too long to load and people end up leaving before they actually even see the form. That's not a problem on LinkedIn. The form loads immediately. You can attach these lead forms to any of the newsfeed ads or any of the messaging, like the conversation ads I told you about. They end up with conversion rates that are 2 to 5 times higher than a landing page with these pre-filled forms and loading automatically. And they integrate with the vast majority of CRMs. I haven't yet found a CRM that doesn't integrate with it if you're going to use something like Zapier to bring it out and put it in there. All right, so that was kind of like the message part of LinkedIn ads. It's like what you can show to someone. Let's dive into the audience portion of our ammo. This is the targeting, what's available. This is the reason why we are willing to pay a premium to advertise on LinkedIn, because no one else has access to this level of professional data. We can target by someone's job title, their level of seniority in the organization, what skills they've listed on their profile, what department they work in, what groups they've joined. We can target just members of specific groups. It's pretty insane. Then we have the education stuff. This is why it works so well for higher ed, where you can target by where someone went to school, what degree they got, what did they study. Then on the company side, you can target by specific company names. This is, we're going to talk a little bit more about account-based marketing, or ABM, where we're targeting specific companies by name. LinkedIn's allowed us to do this ever since it came out in 2008. And only in, I would say, the last 4 or 5 years has ABM become super hot and have all these other platforms. LinkedIn does it really well. We can also target by someone's industry, the size of company, their company growth rate, lots of different ways of reaching specific companies. We can also, this is my favorite part, we can upload lists. You can upload a list of either up to 300,000 individuals to have LinkedIn match, or up to 300,000 companies, again, for our ABM targeting. And almost all of these you can use in combination with each other to make ultra specific audiences. And I love how specific we can get on LinkedIn. We can get all the way down to a minimum audience size of 300 people. Although I don't recommend advertising to tiny, tiny audiences because they have a hard time spending and you might end up having to pay too much for those. But it's nice to know that you can get down to 300. The approach that I like to take, because we never know what, based off of how LinkedIn determines who someone is, what their job title is, what their job function or seniority are. We never know how LinkedIn is going to reach all of them or most of them or what portion. So whenever possible, I like to define 4 separate ways of targeting each individual. Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 5, but here are the 4 that I try to go with. I try to go with job title being number 1 because it's very specific. But LinkedIn doesn't understand everyone's job title. And so if you're only targeting by job title, you're going to end up missing something like 50 to 70% of your audience. And because job title is the first place that people go, the first thing people try, it's more competitive. So you're going to pay a higher cost per click. Then we have job function and seniority. So for instance, if I were trying to reach someone like a chief technical officer, I would use the job title, chief technical officer, chief information officer, boom, easy. If I do the job function and seniority, this would be job function of IT with a CXO or a chief level seniority. That's going to be the most broad of reaching that audience. And because we're going as broad as possible, we're going to get access to the vast majority of people in our audience. And the costs are going to be comparatively lower than job title. Then I also like to try skills with seniority. So maybe some deep IT skills that you would only have if you were in IT, things related to, I don't know, like DNS addresses or IPv6 or things like that, with a C-level seniority. And then also groups. You can go out and target specifically groups meant for CIOs, CTOs. That'll get you the audience right there. Or you could target IT groups and layer on, they have to have a C-level seniority. Both the skills and groups, they tend to be kind of a middle of the road cost, sometimes higher, sometimes lower. But I like to measure all four next to each other and see if there's a way that I can reach my ideal target audience for less money using one way of targeting, then it's going to save me a lot of money in the future. I love that test. There are some defaults that LinkedIn leaves on that are not in your favor. And I've talked to LinkedIn's product team on many occasions saying, please, please, please stop enabling these things as defaults. And it hasn't happened yet. So here are the things that you should watch out for. First off, when you choose your location is set to recent or permanent. I almost always flip this to targeting permanent because what I've heard, I can't find any help documentation saying this specifically, but recent can target someone who has been there up to 6 months previously. So what happens is if we're targeting, let's say we're targeting New York City for some reason, we'll see leads coming in from the Philippines, from Europe, from other places that we're not targeting if we left it on recent. And that's because there's a lot of good reasons to visit New York on business, on personal travel, and they end up in that audience. So, but if you say they have to be permanent, then you're only going to get the people whose profiles say, yes, I live in New York City. Audience expansion. Some ad formats are not setting this by default, thank goodness. But audience expansion is absolute poison. Most of the time, it's the checkbox that's checked that says enable audience expansion. What this does, we're already paying a premium to advertise on LinkedIn. And this allows LinkedIn to put people into your audience that you have no control of, you have no visibility into, and they're muddying your audience. So always, always, always turn that off. Then we have audience network. Audience network it seems really attractive at first glance. This is not showing ads to people just while they're on LinkedIn, but it's showing them on partner sites. You have like the Google Display Network and the Facebook, the Meta audience network as well. They all kind of follow the same things. Let us use the platform's targeting, but show our ads everywhere, which sounds great. The costs per click are really low compared to costs on the platform. Your click-through rates will look quite high, but from my experience, the traffic is really low quality. You might pay 1/10 as much per click to get traffic from the audience network, but you end up with conversion rates that are much lower than if you were just targeting people right on LinkedIn. I don't know what the deal is. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm doing a lot of testing on the audience network, but from everything I've seen, I wouldn't recommend it unless you are like really, really certain you have an advanced reason for wanting to test it. When you get down to the bidding and budgeting section, LinkedIn's default is almost always maximum delivery bidding. Now, here's what you need to know about maximum delivery. It uses CPM bidding, not cost per click bidding. And it's the most expensive way to pay for traffic on LinkedIn 90% of the time. There is a 10% of the time that we'll talk about where it's actually in your best interest to use, but most of the time, maximum delivery bidding is expensive. But it's the default option. So just by flipping from maximum delivery over to manual cost per click bid, most of the time you'll save a lot of money, and it's a great quick fix. When you do choose manual cost per click, it's hidden. So you'll have to like click on more options and then find your manual bid. But when you find the manual bid, LinkedIn's going to give you this recommended range of bids. They'll say, other of your competitors are paying between $20 and $90 per click. Like sometimes they're ridiculous ranges. Don't listen to those ranges. I highly recommend bids significantly lower than what LinkedIn recommends. The only reason that you would want to increase your bid is if you're not getting enough impressions to spend the budget that you want during the day. All right, so now let's talk about the offers portion of things. This is what you're offering people in exchange for their attention. There are certain offers that are appropriate based off of how well someone already knows your company, whether they know, like, and trust you yet. So To cold audiences, if you show an ad for like, take a trial of our software, hop on the phone with a sales rep to do a demo, buy something now, it's too much too soon. These audiences are not ready for those calls to action yet. The kinds of things that they are ready for are things like helpful, interesting, free, educational content, things that are timely and relevant to them right now. Some of the best ad formats that I can point out here are personal video, thought leader ads, just regular posts about like great, interesting content that we just released. Then once audiences are comfortable with you, they already know, like, and trust you to some degree, that's when I like to share content with them that's a little bit deeper, a little bit more engaging. So come and join a webinar. That's a big ask to come dedicate 45 minutes of your time or an hour of your time. Thank you everyone for coming to this webinar. This is a significant investment of your time to be here. And you probably wouldn't have done that if you didn't already know, like, and trust Triple Dart or me and B2 Linked. Things like podcast episodes that take a little bit longer to listen to, a summit that we're putting on, live events, things like that. These are all still very helpful. I like it if they're ungated where possible, but there are things like a webinar you have to gate, because without their email address, you can't send them a calendar invite to make sure that they come and join. That kind of content that's a little bit more engaging, someone's going to spend the time and invest it because they already know, like, and trust you to some degree. Then when they are in the bottom of the funnel, they're hot, they've had multiple interactions, positive interactions with the brand, that's when all of a sudden it's appropriate to show them a trial or a demo, or maybe ask for purchase. And it's not super clean like this. Someone to make a purchase and become a lead, oftentimes they have to be nurtured for 6 months, a year, a year and a half in enterprise. Sometimes we see these really long sales cycles, but that's what you need. You need to make sure that you are staying in front of them consistently and showing them appropriate offers at each stage of the funnel. LinkedIn has 2 different kinds of retargeting. This is how we ensure that we are talking to warm audiences, not cold. Because like I said, you don't want to show it an ad that says, like, get a free demo to a cold audience, but then it means you have to be able to define who your cold audiences are and who your warm are. We do that through retargeting. So my initial stage, I call this my cold stage of cold stage of advertising. These are my native LinkedIn audiences where I'm defining people by their job title and their seniority and job function and industry and company size. Then I use LinkedIn's retargeting to say anyone who's interacted in a significant way with those, now I want to target those people at the middle of the funnel, or the next step down. LinkedIn does have website retargeting, just like every other platform, but it is 100% dependent on you having a cookie in your browser, and still having a cookie in your browser when you show up on a different web page. And we know browsers are all waging a war against cookies. Cookies are not going to last forever. So this is a little bit weak, but it is still worth setting up. But the kinds of retargeting that I am absolutely in love with on LinkedIn, these are called event-based retargeting. This is where it's you actually taking some sort of an action on LinkedIn. And because you are watching at least 25% of a video ad or visiting someone's company page, in order to do that, you have to be logged in. And when you're logged in, LinkedIn knows exactly who you are. So I can go today and go set up an audience of anyone who's engaged at all with one of my document ads. And I can say, grab this audience for the past 180 days. And LinkedIn will go, oh yeah, I remember who's interacted with your document ads for the last 180 days. So I can set that up. It will build that audience in arrears. And that's amazing. You can't do that with website retargeting. As soon as you set it up, that's when it starts tracking people. And if someone loses their cookie, they delete it or their browser throws it away or whatever, all of a sudden they're not eligible to be in that audience anymore. But LinkedIn will remember all the way up until the 180 days or 360 days, whatever you set. And LinkedIn keeps investing in these. Tons more types of retargeting are being built. We just got conversation ads openers or clickers. That was the most recent one. And so I hope LinkedIn keeps investing. We keep getting more and more ways to define whether someone is warm or not. I like to create these 3-step funnels that I talked about, where you have a top of funnel, then you graduate them to the middle, and then you graduate them to the bottom of the funnel. That means by the time I show you an ad for, get a demo, talk to someone, free trial, those kinds of things, I know you've had at least 2 interactions with my brand. You've clicked on an ad in a significant way that was in the top of the funnel. Then you've clicked on an ad that was in the middle of the funnel, and now you're seeing something at the bottom. The way that this works is you create a retargeting audience of anyone who's interacted with a campaign that has, I put tofu, that exact name in all of my top of funnel campaigns. And then it's really easy to create retargeting audiences. You then target those retargeting audiences in your middle of the funnel. Then in the middle of the funnel, sorry, I know this gets a little technical, but in the middle of the funnel, you create audiences saying anyone who's interacted with our middle of funnel campaigns, I want to target those at the bottom of the funnel. And then you have to make sure that you exclude those retargeting audiences from the audience that generated it. So top of the funnel, I'm going to create audiences of anyone who interacted at the top of the funnel. Then I target those in the middle, but I also exclude those same audiences from the top of the funnel. So what happens is, as soon as someone sees the ad, interacts with it, they are excluded from that audience. They're lost at the top of the funnel campaigns, but now they're only being targeted at the middle. And that's how you can create a 3-step funnel. You could do that as a 2-step funnel. You could create a 5-step funnel if you have enterprise-sized budgets. But every stage of the funnel that you create does take a significant amount of budget and time to build that audience. You might see your original audience is 12 million and your bottom of funnel only has 1,200 people in it. That's normal. It takes a while for people to pass through all 3 stages. All right, so new in 2024, these are the things that you should be paying attention to because they are extremely powerful. The second one that says thought leader ads, this is supposed to say connected TV. They're a video ad that you can show on TV streaming services. But for thought leader ads, I mentioned these are new as of 2023. In 2024, they made it so we can promote the post of someone who isn't even at our company. So this opens it up to external influencers, to partners, to customers, as UGC. These are all great places, great ways of using thought leader ads, and we can do that now. When we do this, we see click-through rates that are insane compared to everything else that we see. Then with connected TV, this is still in beta, but it's an open beta. I think anyone can get access to this. We can show non-skippable ads to people who are on streaming services. You can actually, just as of 2 weeks ago, you can go into your LinkedIn ads account and download a list of all of the places that your ads can show up on. There's Roku and not Freevee, but another one of those. Anyway, check it out if you're interested. They seem to be really, really good inventory. And because we can use LinkedIn's targeting, it really puts all other connected TV really to shame. All right, so one thing that Triple Dart asked me specifically to talk about is a one-to-one ABM strategy. And this is something I'm really excited to talk about because this is something I've thought about for a long time. If you could show someone an ad that has their company name in it, they are going to click on it, inevitably. We've tested this before. I mentioned before, we can only get audiences down to a size of 300. So what that means is if I'm targeting, let's say, CEOs and owners of companies, there's only going to be 1, maybe 2 of those in each company. And so that means I would have to have at least 150, 200 maybe companies layered on. But if you happen to be targeting large companies, this is where you can actually do this. I could say, I want to target all marketers at IBM or Microsoft. And then I'm going to have an audience that's larger than 300, and I can create a specific campaign just for IBM or just for Microsoft. and I can use their company name in the ad itself, like, hey, Microsoft employees, or maybe it's just news about Microsoft that relates to our company or our product. Whatever that is, if you can insert this, we found, like I told you, single image ads have about 0.5% click-through rate on average. When you include their company name, we see like 10% click-through rates. It's insane. Everyone wants to click on something that has their name or their company name in it. You can do this with any of the ad formats where you have an audience size of at least 300 at that company. Most of us don't, but hopefully you've got some circumstances where this would make sense. There are other ad formats where you can personalize. Like I mentioned about conversation ads. These can be, you can dynamically insert someone's first name, their last name, their job title, or their company name. It's a little janky. It'll insert their whole company name. So for me, my company name is B2 Linked, the LinkedIn Ads Performance Agency. And so anytime I got an ad where someone dynamically inserted my company name, it says, hey, I see you're the owner of, and then the whole company name. And I can tell immediately that's not personalized, because a human would just say my company name. They'd say, hey, I see you're the owner of B2 Linked. But this is something you can do. It takes a lot of work building a whole campaign just for each company that you want to go after, but it can make sense because you get insane engagement with the companies when you use their name. I love the account-based marketing things that we can do on LinkedIn because we can target by company names. There are 5 things that I love to do here. Number 1, I'll go to my sales team and I'll get a list of, like, give me all of your dream accounts, and I can go and create a campaign targeting specifically these. I can also take a list of all of my competitors and upload those as an exclusion list so that I'm not showing my competitors what I'm doing. You can do the same thing with your customers. Get a list of all of your customer companies, upload that as an exclusion, and that way you're not spending money on people who are already customers. They're already paying you money. This is especially helpful with SaaS companies. If you have new product updates, new things that are coming out, if you show ads to your current customers by this list and tell them, like, here's what's coming out and this is what we're excited about, they are much more likely to subscribe or resubscribe or keep on contract because they can see what else is coming that they're excited about. I also really like funnel acceleration. This is what I call showing ads to people who are already in your funnel but haven't yet become a customer. So anyone who's a lead but has not yet closed, you can upload these lists or have a dynamically synced list with your CRM. I do want to tell you to be very careful with your objective that you choose on LinkedIn, because the objective that LinkedIn recommends and the objective that actually generates the lowest costs for you as an advertiser are oftentimes very different. Be aware that when you use the engagement objective, you can still bid by cost per click, but then you're going to pay that cost per click any time someone clicks on anything on that ad. The worst part that we're seeing is lots of clicks go to when you have ad copy at the beginning or just normal copy. If it goes longer than about 160 characters, it truncates it and it says see more ... When someone clicks see more to read the rest of what you wrote, you get charged. I hate this. I really wish LinkedIn would change that, but that's what it is. So if you choose the engagement objective, you're going to see really high click-through rates because there's probably a lot of people who click see more or click like or click to see your company page, but you'll get charged for all of those. Website visits is my favorite objective though, because people can click see more, they can click like and comment and click to your company page, but you don't get charged for any of that. You only get charged when someone clicks on the link that would take them to your landing page. Lead generation is where someone interacts with your lead gen form. And so when someone triggers the lead gen form, you'll pay your cost per click there, but you also pay on the see more on lead generation as well, which again, I hate. I've asked LinkedIn to please reconsider this one. But be aware, on lead generation ads, I purposely try to keep my copy short so that I don't get the see more popping up. The success metrics to track when you're running an ABM program, because on ABM, we oftentimes have smaller, more focused lists, and they're a higher value company, which means usually they're going to take longer to close. So I wish we could say when we run an ABM program, yeah, look at all these leads we've generated. But most of the time, we don't have tons of leads yet because it's a smaller audience size and they're going to take longer to mature. So what I like to watch, first off, I watch the click-through rate to see, does this list care about my ads on a higher than average? And I hope they would, but they don't always. I also track my cost per click, because if we're targeting a smaller audience, sometimes we have to bid higher and pay LinkedIn more to show those. So we might see higher costs per click. And I also like this metric called cost per 50% view. LinkedIn won't show you this. This is a custom metric that I have to export my data to Excel and calculate. But I like to see costs per 50% view of a video ad anywhere between about $1 and $4. If you're significantly lower than that, fantastic. The formulas that I'm showing you here on screen, feel free to screenshot them, or you'll probably get the deck after. These are the exact formulas that I use to calculate these in ways that it doesn't matter which objective you chose. It's going to allow you to compare all of your campaigns apples to apples. Some additional success metrics you can watch. That's also the cost per 50% view. Cost per lead, though, this is counting all kinds of conversions. If you're running both lead generation campaigns and campaigns where you're sending people to a landing page and hopefully they convert there, I like to calculate my cost per lead by combining both my leads and my click conversions. If you just use LinkedIn's data for conversions, it adds together your click conversions and your view through conversions. And I don't agree that your view through conversions are a conversion that LinkedIn should be taking credit for. So I add those together. I have two case studies that I wanted to share with you that were really, really cool. So first off, I have a B2B healthcare company who, sorry, I just want to make sure I remember, because both of my case studies I was sharing were in the B2B healthcare industry. Oh, actually, these are separate. Okay. Some cool things that we've done on this slide, but I want to get to the ones that were super recent. I am running short on time and I want to leave it open for you guys for Q&A. So I'm probably going to fly through these last slides. But suffice it to say, it's super important, especially in enterprise, that your marketing and your sales departments are synced, that you are actually meeting with them, and that you have open lines of communication. Gone are the days where marketing and sales fight all the time and you hate each other. You have to work together. Otherwise, this is never going to work. Okay, here's one, a recent case study that I was really excited about. We have an enterprise B2B insurance brand that on average, they get about 2 leads per quarter from their ABM lists. And they're ecstatic about this because when one of these deals closes, it's probably worth millions of dollars. And so they're super happy with the 2 leads they got in Q1. On April 2nd, we launched thought leader ads, the ads I told you about, where you can promote a person's posts rather than a company. And with no additional investment, we just moved some dollars from previous ads to thought leader. They ended up with 18 leads last quarter. Absolutely blew it away. Thought leader ads are a lot more difficult to track because you can't actually tell their performance apart from organic because you can't customize the link to have UTM parameters. But we saw it was as soon as thought leader ads turned on, there was a huge uptake in people coming to their website and submitting leads for these really high value partnerships. There's also an enterprise medical device company that we work with. Their bottom of funnel ads, they were asking for your phone number, your work email, first, last name, and your LinkedIn profile URL. We had a conversion rate of 1.3% of people who opened the form only 1.3% submitted it. It created no pipeline. It was awful. All we did was just remove the phone number field, and all of a sudden our conversion rate jumped to 4.6%. It generated 26 leads, and that's led to 750,000 in pipeline. We literally generated 750,000 in pipeline just by removing a form field that was too high in friction. If any of you happen to be just getting started with LinkedIn ads, I put together a checklist, b2linked.com/checklist, absolutely free. It has everything that you need to get started advertising on LinkedIn. Those of you who are more advanced in LinkedIn ads, this is, you do this as part of your job. You've been doing it for a while. You're probably going to want our advanced guide. That's b2linked.com/advanced-guide. That's so many of the advanced strategies that we've talked about today, plus many more. I think you'll really enjoy it. I'm also the host of the LinkedIn Ads Show podcast. If you like to listen to podcasts and you like LinkedIn ads, I get really geeky about it once a week. And we're on episode 146, I think, this week. So I would highly recommend it. We do also include interviews with LinkedIn's product team to talk about different products that they're coming out with. And then with that being said, Glenn, I'll turn it back to you to kind of lead us in Q&A. I know we only have 6 minutes and I apologize, but happy to answer whatever questions you have.
No worries, AJ. This was awesome. Thank you so much for the download. I appreciate how you dove into all the various ad formats and also the pricing pitfalls with all the bad defaults and everything. Personally, I was pretty focused on the discussion on the different types of offers and the performance within the funnel. It really sparked some ideation on what type of content we could ungate and potentially feature in a paid campaign. So that definitely got some gears turning. But yeah, during your presentation, we received a bunch of questions from our audience and also a couple from our internal team. So let's jump into those right away. The first one is about personalization. How would you go about personalizing your interactions when it comes to prioritized accounts?
There are some different personalization options that you can do once they get to your website. I'm not nearly as well versed in that area of B2B technology, like MarTech. But I know on LinkedIn, if you use the conversation ads or message ads, but I don't recommend message ads because you can do everything that you want to do with those with conversation ads. You can insert and personalize. There's also an ad format called dynamic ads that LinkedIn will call spotlight ads. They only show up on desktop. They're in the same inventory as text ads, but they do insert your picture as a prospect. So if you're searching around on LinkedIn and you see an ad that has your picture in it, that's what they're doing. And that's a little flavor of personalization as well.
Nice. I got to check out those dynamic ads then. Cool. Next one. Let's say a target account isn't currently in market. So how would you go about nurturing and engaging accounts that, aren't currently in market, but might become sales opportunities, let's say in the next 6 to 9 months?
I love it. Just because an account is not in market, what it means is they are, consider them top of funnel, or if you've engaged before, maybe consider them middle of funnel. So I will create a campaign just for that list of companies that I know are not in market currently, but I just want to stay top of mind. And it might be something where I bid a little bit low and have a little bit lower of budget, but I just want my ads as a quiet hum in the background to keep me top of mind. So every time they come back to LinkedIn, they've got an opportunity to be reminded of our product. And then that way, when they do interact and they are ready to graduate further down the funnel, then they'll naturally enter our middle of funnel or bottom of funnel audiences. But I think having a top of funnel audience that you're constantly showing ads to them to stay top of mind is super important.
Got it. And that's probably where those text ads kind of come in, where you're kind of just having those humming in the background, right?
Yeah, they are incredible. Like people they can see your logo 15 times in a day, surfing around.
Got it. Cool. Jumping into the meeting chat here, Manjai asks how much ad spend is too much for an average deal, say $50,000, And how long should we run it to generate C-suite leads?
It depends a little bit on what our definition of a lead is, but how much ad spend is too much? That's going to depend on your stage of company. We've worked with some companies who are oftentimes venture funded, and they're okay running at a deficit as long as they see growth. If you're a bootstrapped company, you need it to be profitable. And so I would say, if a deal is $50,000, I might spend up to 40,000 or more or less, just depending on how much you have to pay your marketing team and your sales team and your agency and all that. But the goal for me is usually profitability.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Keys Fanjoy asks, can lead gen forms function as a data capture mechanism without gating the document in a document ad? An example of this would be fully available case study and a lead gen form to request a demo as a next step. In my experience, LinkedIn seems to assume that the purpose of a lead gen form is only to gate the content itself.
Great question. You can use a lead gen form to gate anything. You could just say, like, here's the lead gen form. The next, like the thank you page or whatever you click on to leave, that just takes you right to a publicly available page. And that's how you'd set it up. It's pretty simple the way that they've defined it. You can also say, once this lead enters our CRM, then send them an email that gives them a link to whatever I want to send them to. So there's two different ways you could do that.
Awesome. And then I'm just going to take in one more since we're coming up on time. So this one is from Christina. This is so informative. Thank you. What's your recommended audience size for brand awareness and lead gen, and thoughts on targeting by job title and company industry?
I love audience sizes that are between about 20,000 to 80,000. Your LinkedIn rep will tell you have audience sizes of 300,000 or more. I think that's a mistake. I love 20,000 to 80,000. Much smaller, you'll end up not being able to spend all of the budget that you want. And much larger, there's usually some intelligence that I'm leaving on the table. If I have an audience of 200,000, I could break it up into two separate campaigns of 100,000 by maybe company sizes. Like, this campaign is only those who are a company size of less than 500. And then this one is more than 500. And now, based off of the performance I see of those ads, I find out, oh, it looks like larger companies interact and prefer our ads more than smaller. And so there's something you can better learn. What was the last part of the question?
Let me scroll up to find it again. And thoughts on targeting by job title and company industry.
Oh yeah, I love job title plus industry. I love job title plus company size. Like I showed on a previous slide, I would trade out job title for job function and seniority, skills and seniority, and groups with seniority. And they're all great ways of targeting and defining who the audience is. And over time, you find out what the absolute best campaign is, or the best type of targeting that generates you the highest quality leads.
Yeah, it's through that exercise of kind of like filtering out and all of that.
Totally.
Cool. Well, incredible insights, AJ. You've covered so much in the past hour, and I believe we all took away a bunch to test out on LinkedIn. Just a quick note to our audience, we'll be sharing the recording of today's Coach by Triple Dart session along with the slides. So watch out for that email soon. And before we close out, AJ, for anyone looking to connect or follow up with questions about your presentation, where can they find you, connect with you, all of that?
Yeah, send me a connection request on LinkedIn. Just make sure to customize the connection request and say that you heard me on the Triple Dart webinar. That way I'll make sure I accept your connection request, and I'd love to have you follow me there.
Awesome. Great. We'll include those details in our recap email and also on the YouTube description below once this session is posted. And if you're curious about LinkedIn ads or exploring other strategic growth opportunities for your product or your company, don't hesitate to reach out to me, to AJ, or connect through the Triple Dart website. We'd love to start a conversation. AJ, thanks again for today's session. I know our audience and team are eager to implement what you've learned, what we've learned, and we appreciate you coming on today's Coach by Triple Dart. Thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone, and thanks for having me.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.